Welcome to Emerging Civil War News. I'm Chris Mikowski, and joining me today is my friend David Duncan, president of the American Battlefield Trust. David, how are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, there's been a lot going on, and of course, the trust has always got a lot going on. But data centers have been front and center in Civil War preservation news over the past couple of weeks, with a lot of hearings, a lot of rulings, a couple surprises. And I
Mhm.
thought it would be really important to bring you on to bring us up to speed on all those things that are going on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, it's been a long time getting here. This fight is now approaching 2.5 years. In particular, if I'm talking about what's happening at the Prince William Digital Gateway, which is immediately adjacent to the western edge of the Manassas battlefield. That started back in December of 2023. And so here we are now. This our lawsuit, in which we have been paired with a local group of landowners, homeowners out there who are also concerned about this data center development. That lawsuit has been working its way through the courts. The most recent developments there are that a Virginia Court of Appeals, or the Virginia Court of Appeals, excuse me, heard our case back in February, actually on February 24th. And we thought it was probably going to take a few months for them to come back with their ruling. Well, they came back in basically a month. And just a week or so ago, on March 31st, they ruled unanimously in our favor. And basically, what that says is that Prince William County, when they again 2.5 years ago, when they approved a rezoning of these properties that would allow for the largest data center campus, not just in Virginia, not just in the United States, but the largest data center development on planet Earth. Um, they failed to meet the requirements of state and local public notification laws. And that's a very technical point, but that's what we've based our case on. Basically, the County Board of Supervisors that was then in power in Prince William County, and today there's a new board in power. Um, they didn't follow the rules. And so that's what we've been fighting for. That's what we've been spending lots of money on. And no offense to the attorneys who may be watching or listening, but I'd much rather spend our members' money on buying land, preserving battlefields, and doing education programs than paying attorneys. But we have to fight.
Sure.
So the good news is that we heard from the Virginia Court of Appeals, and they ruled unanimously in our favor. I'm not popping the champagne corks quite yet because there's still a chance for the developers or the county, which, by the way, has already spent, we know, $1.6 million on this litigation. There's still a chance that they could appeal to the Virginia Supreme Court. And I think they have 30 days, and the clock probably started back on March 31st to make that decision. So uh, again, not popping champagne corks. We might be beginning to move the champagne from the basement and bringing it into the kitchen, and we'll start to get the ice ready, but I'm not claiming victory quite yet.
And I know that there are also ancillary effects to these data centers. For instance, in Orange County, they're talking about new power line extensions to bring in power to, be able to fuel these things. So tell me about some of those sort of spillover effects.
Sure. We focus primarily on the history, of course, but those types of developments do impact the historic, as we call it, viewscape. And the power requirements of these data centers are enormous, from what we understand. Current power lines might be enough or might not be adequate to power them, so you might need more density or additional power lines coming in from different places. I've heard horror stories about the amount of water consumption they need, and the noise as well. That you've got banks and banks of air conditioning compressors on the roofs of these things, And by the way, each one of them has a footprint about the size of a football field
Wow.
and can be anywhere from 8 to 10 stories tall. Air conditioning compressors running 24 hours a day, generating a substantial amount of noise. All of these things, we believe, excuse me, takes away from the power of place. And the reason why, let's be candid, heritage tourists come to visit these battlefields. They want to have an authentic experience and experience the ground as closely as they can to visualize what the soldiers saw on that day. And these types of intrusions, they just mar that experience as far as we're concerned.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to maybe speculate a little bit here, but why is it that Northern Virginia in particular has attracted so many of these, where there's so much historically sensitive ground? Oh.
Chris, when you figure that out, call me collect. I've asked that same question for years now, basically since COVID, and I've heard um, responses along the lines of it has something to do with the undersea cables that connect the United States with the rest of the world. I think it also has to do with the favorable tax situation that data center developers receive for a very long time, and there seems to be a little bit of a movement afoot in at least the Virginia General Assembly against or making the data center developments developers pay more of their own freight these things. And I think it's a combination of a lot of things. It's local land use decisions. These counties were told that they were going to receive large funds, and that's enticing because, if they can bring down the property tax rate 10, 15, or 20 cents um, for their citizens, I can understand why they might want to do that. But my contention has always been we can do both. Believe me, I get the irony of telling people to go to our website or go to our YouTube channel or to watch this particular interview online. And go to these places and watch our videos about how we're fighting data centers on battlefields. I get the irony, but we can do both, and we should do both, and we should try to do both. Still do what we need to do to power our modern society, the information society that we live in, while at the same time, especially in places like Virginia, protect the irreplaceable historic resource that is a battlefield. And it's like you say, they're all over the place. Um, that being said, I did an interview on this very subject earlier this week, and they said, well, are you trying to save every single acre where any sort of action took place? And that's not really realistic. That's not what we're trying to do. As much as I would love to, we don't have the resources to do that. We have to be very judicious. So we're not anti-development. And I think that's a very, very important point to make. We just want to see it at the table when these decisions are being made, where to site these things. And maybe we can avert, tying both the developers and ourselves up in legal wrangling for years. So that's where I come from on that.
Well, and as you know, I live on the Chancellorsville battlefield, which is the great case study in win-win-win. And I know the trust has a long history of looking for those win-win situations for everyone. So,
Absolutely. And it's even a situation where they're at the wilderness. That's not wholly data centers, although that is part of an envisioned development there in Orange County, Virginia, where we're also engaged in litigation. They're proposing the largest multi-use development in the history of that county with residential, commercial, and then just because I guess they think people want to live next to data centers, millions of square feet of data centers as well there too. Um, so it's and the litigation there in Orange County is along this similar lines, not exactly the same case, but again, cautiously optimistic there, primarily because 3, 4, 5 years ago, when it was the Wild West as far as data center
well,
construction was concerned. Um, I think people back then did not know as much as they know about data centers now, the effect on energy consumption, the effect on electricity bills, the effect on water, and the other ancillary effects that come with them, additional power lines, et cetera, et cetera. I just saw in the Wall Street Journal this week an article that said, again, back to your earlier question, Virginia is number one in the country with closing in on 600 individual data centers.
Wow.
Texas is a distant number two. And it just, seems to me you could put a lot of these things in other places as well. But that part is it is what it is, and again, we're not trying to fight to end the data center business or industry. We just want everybody to play by the same rules and follow the law.
Now, a lot of this is being driven by the AI boom. So there's
Mhm.
lots of investment, which means some of these developers have some pretty deep pockets for these legal battles, deeper than the American Battlefield Trust pockets. So I
Correct.
know that that's a concern. Tell me a little bit about what you guys have underway right now to address that.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. And yes, you could almost say it was a quixotic uh, move of ours years ago to even think we could get into I'll make some metaphor here, the boxing ring with um, these entities, which are candidly some of the best capitalized industries in the world, data centers, warehouse distribution centers, et cetera. But when they and I don't know if it's arrogance or just ignorance, but when they make a mistake like they did in terms of thinking they could just ram through a rezoning, well, that's our opportunity. If we have to compete with them on buying the land, that's going to be very, very difficult. But the idea is primarily, and hopefully, to get them to agree to move their development someplace else, away from the historic battlefield. But I will say this. I have been extraordinarily encouraged over the last couple of years. Every time we have gone to our membership and asked for help to keep us in the fight, to help pay our legal expenses, they have responded just overwhelmingly positive. And that tells me something. That tells me I'm on the right track. That tells me our members, our donors, our supporters who care about hallowed ground want us to fight. And so, even though we've had this wonderful ruling from the appeals court here recently, the fight's not over yet. So we're out right now asking folks again if they could help replenish our coffers so that we can keep this fight, keep the scare on them, if you want to say it that way, so that we can see this thing all the way through to the end. I honestly believe we're getting closer to victory every single day. We just can't let up right now.
So, and I'll encourage folks to go to battlefield.org, the American Battlefield Trust's website, and you can see the latest updates, what's going on. That's also a way that folks can contribute to help replenish those coffers.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Da-
Appreciate it.
David, thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Take
I'm
care.
Chris. I'm Chris Mikowski for Emerging Civil War News. We'll see you online and on the battlefield.